Welcome to the Deep Dive. This week, the AI headlines. They're not just hinting at progress, they're practically screaming it. It feels different, doesn't it?
It really does,
Like
yeah.
the future just landed in, I don't know, multiple forms, wearing a business suit, a lab coat, and yeah, sometimes a very confused-looking exoskeleton.
Absolutely. The sheer velocity, the speed of advancements just this week, it feels like it's reshaped the landscape. We're seeing incredible potential, but also some critical new challenges popping up.
Right. So our mission today is basically to give you a shortcut, a way to quickly understand the pulse of machine intelligence from just the past 7 days. We're diving deep into AI news, August 1st, 2025, which pulled together, 23 defining stories?
That's right, 23.
And this deep dive, it's going to take us from, boardroom valuations all the way to the biology lab and even into some pretty surprising ethical questions AI is throwing up now.
Yeah.
You get a fast grasp of the real-world stakes, the surprising facts from the absolute latest in AI.
And what's really compelling, I think, is how these headlines, which might seem kind of separate, actually weave together. They define this current AI moment. We'll try and connect those threads for you, show how markets are swinging billions, labs are pushing biology frontiers, robots are giving us some stark lessons, and policymakers are, well, scrambling to keep pace.
Okay, let's kick off with the economy then, those huge shifts. The headline that really grabbed me was Microsoft briefly hitting that $4 trillion valuation. I mean, beyond the staggering number itself, what's the sort of silent message here? What's Microsoft's surge telling every other industry about where the power lies now?
Well, that massive surge, it was really fueled by two main things. Azure's double-digit growth, which is huge, and getting over 100 million daily users on Copilot.
Wow,
Daily. But what's really significant underneath that is Satya Nadella's promise tens of billions in new spending on data centers, chips, and, importantly, renewable power. It's a really stark reminder that these advanced AI systems, they're not just software floating in the cloud, they consume immense amounts of energy and silicon. That drives massive infrastructure investment.
So for us, the listeners, what does that huge valuation shift actually signal? What does it mean practically?
It unequivocally shows how AI advancements are now, directly shaping global capital flows. I mean, think about it. 5 tech giants, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Apple, Alphabet, Meta, they now account for roughly a quarter of the entire S&P 500's value.
A quarter. That's huge.
It's massive. And that concentration of power, naturally, it's intensifying calls for regulation. You see that chatter growing. And that heavy cloud investment, it also signals that these next-gen AI platforms are fast becoming, well, as fundamental as every day as Wi-Fi.
Like Wi-Fi, right. And that concentration, of course, puts regulation right in the spotlight. Washington certainly made headlines this week, too, didn't they? The White House's new AI action plan. Policy news doesn't always go viral, but this one seemed to. What's the core goal there?
Yeah, this blueprint, it's really about trying to spread the AI opportunity beyond just the big coastal tech hubs, while also trying to uphold democratic values. It specifically pushes for things like open sourcing model weights, creating more robust compute markets so more people can access processing power, and setting up national AI labs.
Okay.
And the key pillars are basically foster open models to help startups, provide workforce grants to boost data literacy in, say, Rust Belt towns, and create these regulatory sandboxes, safe spaces for entrepreneurs to test out cutting-edge AI without immediately falling foul of old rules. The underlying bet really is that if Congress actually writes the checks for this, America could significantly leapfrog its rivals.
That's a really ambitious vision. Okay, let's pivot now. From government policy to a name you maybe wouldn't immediately associate with cutting-edge AI, Warren Buffett.
Right.
The news this week had this surprising revelation. Almost 40% of Berkshire Hathaway's massive, but $293 billion portfolio is quietly sitting in companies riding the AI wave. We're talking Apple, Amazon, even Coca-Cola. So what's the sort of hidden lesson in that for the everyday investor who wants AI exposure, but maybe not the crazy tech volatility?
It's a great question, because what's really insightful there is how Buffett's strategy, which looks pretty traditional, right? It avoids those pure tech roller coaster bets, but it actually offers retail investors significant exposure to advanced AI. The core takeaway is this. AI's economic impact. It's not just about GPU makers or cloud companies anymore. It's deeply permeating all sorts of sectors, beverages, banking, credit cards, you name it. It shows that diversification isn't just about managing risk, it's increasingly how AI is integrating across entire value chains. It's becoming embedded.
So Buffett's making these quiet, diversified plays. Meanwhile, another big AI name, Anthropic, is making huge waves. There was that Bloomberg report valuing them near $170 billion.
Yeah, huge number.
And Anthropic is known for constitutional AI, the safety-first approach. The report pointed out this really fascinating tension. Can a lab that puts safety first really keep that stance when investors are expecting that kind of hockey stick growth?
That tension is absolutely central, and the implications are massive. You're talking exploding compute budgets, fierce competition for top AI talent, making hiring markets incredibly tight, and a worrying concentration of strategic power in just a handful of these big frontier labs.
Right.
Governments are already looking at things like export controls for advanced AI. And big companies, enterprises, they're now demanding transparency, show us the training data, give us detailed safety cards before they'll even think about signing those big multi-year API deals. It's a fundamental test, really. Do values hold up against intense commercial pressure?
Okay, so we've seen these huge shifts in capital, in policy. But how does this high-level stuff actually translate down? How's it changing jobs, how we work? This week, researchers looked at 200,000 anonymized Bing Copilot chats, trying to map how different jobs are using these generative models. What did they find? Which roles are leaning on AI most? And maybe more importantly, how are they using it?
Yeah, what really stood out was that software engineers and sales reps were right at the top of the chart. They're using Copilot for, everything from generating code snippets to drafting sales pitches or summarizing contracts.
Okay.
But manual jobs, in-person service roles, they lagged significantly behind, which hints at an early kind of inequity in who's benefiting from AI adoption right now. But crucially, they found that people are treating AI more like a coach, not like an autopilot. They ask for a draft maybe, but then they edit it heavily themselves.
Interesting.
So for any HR leader listening, the lesson seems pretty clear. Invest in AI training for your people before you even think about pink slips. It looks like it's much more about augmenting work, helping people do things better or faster, not immediate replacement.
That's a really powerful insight into how the workforce is adapting or starting to. Okay, shifting gears again to healthcare. There's a new Cat Boost model trained on 50 clinical features that can now diagnose 6 different vestibular disorders. These are basically things that cause dizziness or vertigo. And it does it with, reportedly, 88% accuracy.
Which is impressive.
Very. And here's where it gets particularly interesting for adoption. It uses something called SHAP-based explainability, which builds trust. For anyone not familiar, SHAP helps show why the AI made a particular diagnosis, rather than just spitting out an answer from a black box.
And this is potentially a huge leap for people suffering from vertigo. It could mean better triage in emergency rooms, much faster treatment paths, and maybe even lower healthcare costs overall. The team's already planning global trials, hoping these results hold up outside their initial data set. If they do, yeah, it's a significant step towards more precise, personalized diagnostics.
Okay, staying with practical applications. Earth observation, satellite imagery analysis that used to be the domain of big government agencies with huge budgets.
Right, very exclusive.
But this week, Google Earth AI seems to be flipping that script. They're bundling decades of satellite imagery with these UNet-style models. That's a type of AI good for image analysis, and exposing it all through APIs. How does this actually democratize access? Who benefits from getting this kind of power on basically any laptop?
Oh, this is a tremendous democratization. I mean, think about climate NGOs, maybe in the global south. Suddenly, they can forecast potential flood zones without needing access to massive supercomputers. Or urban planners. They can instantly overlay heat island projections onto zoning maps just by asking the right questions through the API. Now, Google does have safeguards blurring sensitive military areas, strict terms of service, but it's still critical to acknowledge the critics who warn about potential misuse by, bad actors.
Sure. That risk is always there.
Absolutely. But ultimately, Google Earth AI signals a platform shift. Planetary scale modeling and easily accessible data are converging, and that's going to enable entirely new kinds of AI breakthroughs we haven't even thought of yet.
So from planetary health down to our personal health, AI's impact is spreading wide. But let's talk about something we use every day, cars. S&P Global put out this rundown on AI in the automotive sector, and honestly, it reads like a thriller for engineers.
Yeah.
You've got ZF's Tempi tuning coolant flow in real time for efficiency, generative models speeding up the search for better battery chemistries. Just how deeply is AI integrated now? In the factory, on the road.
Oh, it's absolutely pervasive. It's layered throughout the whole stack. In the factory, you have robot welders using 4K vision to see joints more clearly, paint shops adapting spray patterns dynamically based on the specific car body.
Wow.
And then on the road, AI is doing things like balancing ride-hailing supply and demand against real-time urban congestion patterns. Every single link in the chain, from sourcing raw materials like lithium right down to final mile delivery logistics, is seeing benefits. But the crucial challenge now, it's shifting. It's less about designing the perfect algorithm and more about ensuring the data is good, keeping the sensors secure from hacking, and maybe the trickiest part, figuring out the legal clarity around liability. You know, when a self-driving truck's AI makes a critical split-second decision, who's responsible?
That's the big question.
It is, but it's clear. The car you buy in, say, 3 years, it'll owe as much to sophisticated Python code as it does to traditional engineering tolerances.
Another really significant health breakthrough reported this week. Researchers unveiled a machine learning assay, a test basically, that can detect early Lyme disease with over 90% sensitivity and specificity.
Yeah, that's huge.
It really is. Apparently, that just crushes the maybe 30% hit rate you get with the classic diagnostic methods.
Yeah.
Truly remarkable improvement.
It's a potential game changer for catching Lyme early when it's much more treatable. And what this result, along with other things we saw this week, like that Medicine GPT chatbot that outperformed generic ChatGPT on adolescent health questions, what it powerfully demonstrates is this core idea. When the stakes are high, like in medicine, you need highly domain-tuned models.
Meaning specialized.
Exactly. These aren't just general-purpose AIs. They're built with specific medical knowledge, context, crucial safety guardrails, and they need proper clinical backing. This early win in Lyme detection, it foreshadows broader shifts coming in laboratory medicine, where algorithms won't just analyze test results, they'll increasingly help design the tests themselves.
Okay, let's look at productivity tools. Google's Notebook LM just got a major upgrade. It started as mostly a text summarizer, right? But now it's becoming more like a multimedia content studio, adding new video and audio overviews. What does that evolution tell us about how we might process and share knowledge in the future?
Yeah, this move clearly signals Google thinks effective knowledge transfer needs more than just text. It needs voices, visuals. Educators are definitely excited about the potential here. It could really change how learning materials are created. But yeah, there are still crucial accuracy worries. AI can still misquote data, it can get timelines mixed up, and while Google apparently nudges users to edit the generated scripts before they export them, the ultimate responsibility for making sure it's factually correct, that still rests firmly with the human user.
Right, so convenience goes up, but the responsibility doesn't go away.
Exactly. Convenience climbs, but responsibility sticks with us.
Okay, shifting to finance and accounting. There was a study linked to Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 initiative looking at AI's impact on accountants. It found that things like automated ledgers, AI spotting anomalies in accounts, real-time dashboards, this tech is increasingly freeing up accountants from routine tasks to do more high-level advisory work.
And what's compelling there is that the accountants surveyed, they worried less about being laid off and more about two other things. First, these opaque models, meaning they couldn't always see how the AI reached a conclusion, which makes it hard to trust or verify.
Understandable.
And second, skills gaps within their own teams. They knew they needed to upskill to work alongside these new tools effectively. The study authors strongly recommended integrating AI literacy into business education and, importantly, setting up ethical guardrails that respect local norms, particularly the nuances of Islamic finance in this context. It's really about adapting the human role, not just eliminating it.
And sticking with tech meeting biology, but in medical imaging this time. A really promising development. A proposed new method for a gentler breast scan. It uses microwave imaging combined with deep learning. Can you unpack that a bit?
Sure. The idea involves this conformal ring, apparently with 8 antennas, that wraps comfortably around the breast. It uses ultra-wideband microwaves, not ionizing radiation like X-rays, and then an attention network, which is a type of AI that intelligently focuses on the most relevant parts of the scan data to try and pinpoint tumors precisely.
And the benefits?
The big ones are no radiation exposure and minimal physical discomfort compared to traditional mammograms. Plus, while clinical trials are still needed, the researchers say the basic design is cheap, it's portable, and it's cloud-ready. So it offers a genuinely promising, potentially less invasive alternative for breast screening down the line. Huge potential for patient comfort and accessibility.
Okay, let's shift now to the really cutting-edge stuff, the research and development frontier. MIT's Computer Science and AI Lab, CSAIL, proposed this algebraic shortcut for dealing with symmetric data, essentially encoding mathematical descriptions of symmetry group representations directly into the neural network layers. How does this clever math trick make AI potentially more efficient and maybe even fairer?
It's quite elegant, actually. What this method means is potentially less need for data augmentation, artificially creating more training data by flipping or rotating images. It could mean few FLOPs, that's floating point operations, a measure of computational work, so less processing power needed, and maybe smaller data sets required overall.
Okay.
It seems it can match the performance of more complex approaches like graph neural networks, but train significantly faster. And the technique isn't just for simple flips. It can handle symmetries like rotations and reflections, which has broad applications in science. And here's a really nice side effect. If the model is inherently built to treat symmetric inputs identically, certain kinds of biases embedded in the data can actually shrink.
Ah, so efficiency and equity can sometimes go hand in hand.
Exactly. They often ride the same breakthroughs in these kinds of foundational advances.
All right, moving from abstract math to the nitty-gritty of molecular biology, there's Raban. This is a neural network trained across different species on a massive data set, 12,000 mRNA transcript sequences. And it's decoding the protein pipeline, basically predicting how these mRNA strands actually behave inside a living cell. What does that mean for medicine, practically speaking?
This is truly foundational stuff for medicine.
Yeah.
Ribon can apparently spot these hidden sequence elements in mRNA that cause the ribosomes, the cell's protein factories, to kind of slow down or stall.
Okay.
Now, for vaccine engineers or anyone designing mRNA therapies, this capability is absolute gold.
Yeah.
Because finding those bottlenecks means you can make tiny tweaks to the mRNA sequence, identified by Ribon, that could dramatically boost the amount of protein the cell produces from that message.
Huge for efficiency.
Huge. And the fact that the researchers released the code and data under an open MIT license, that's inviting biotech labs everywhere to jump in, test it, build on it. It's really a textbook example of how these new AI tools are turning molecular biology from an observational science into more of a precise engineering discipline.
Okay, let's talk robots. Robotics is often felt kind of fragmented, right? Each robot type, each task often requires separate training. But a company called Skilled AI has this bigger vision: one brain, many bodies. They've developed what they call an omni-bodied foundation model. It learns by ingesting data from dozens of different kinds of robots to distill motor skills that are universally transferable. What could this mean for the future of robotics, maybe how quickly it scales?
Yeah, this is potentially revolutionary for robotics. This idea of cross-embodiment learning, if it works well, could drastically slash the massive amounts of data usually needed to train each new robot type. That data requirement is a major bottleneck keeping robotics relatively niche right now.
So one core AI could work in different bodies.
Exactly. Imagine the same core AI policy being able to drive a wheeled rover down a corridor, then seamlessly switch its control outputs to guide a four-legged robot up some stairs, and then maybe even, in a sense, teleport those learned manipulation skills into a 7-axis robotic arm to carefully stack blocks.
Wow.
Investors are definitely watching this space very closely because the first company that really nails this kind of cross-robot skill transfer, they could potentially dominate huge sectors like service robotics, logistics, even defense almost overnight. It's a massive potential accelerator.
And finally, in this R&D section, AI is becoming not just a tool, but almost a research partner. Stanford unveiled this virtual research lab. In this setup, you have digital principal investigators, AI leads, essentially delegating complex scientific tasks like generating hypotheses or simulating how proteins dock together to specialized AI agents.
Yeah, and the speed gains they demonstrated were truly massive. These AI agents actually design novel nanobody vaccine candidates against SARS-CoV-2. And here's the kicker. When they tested them in a real wet lab, 7 out of the 12 AI-designed candidates actually worked, and 3 of them proved to be superior to the human-designed baseline vaccines.
That's incredible.
It is. Now, humans are still in the loop, setting the overall research goals, vetting the results for safety and plausibility, but the potential for accelerating the pace of scientific discovery here is just undeniable.
Okay, now let's turn to, well, the human side of all this. The ethics, the challenges, the perception. You probably saw that viral video clip, right? The Unitree H1 humanoid robot flailing wildly in a support harness.
Yeah, that was everywhere.
The jokes were flying Skynet rehearsal, that kind of thing. Looked pretty dramatic. But what's the more, let's say, mundane engineering reality behind that meme?
Hey, the boring truth is actually a pretty straightforward technical issue. The robot's balance controller software was expecting to feel forces from its feet pushing against the ground reaction forces. But because it was suspended in a harness, those forces never came. So the controller's math basically broke down and started overcorrecting wildly.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't trying to escape.
No, not likely.
Uh,
But it really highlights this critical gap that still exists between the sophisticated AI brains we can build and the physical bodies they inhabit. Simulations are great, but they often miss the messy, unpredictable subtleties of the real physical world. And this matters because, as we saw, public trust in these embodied AI systems, like humanoids, visibly wavers with every single viral flop like this. Perception management is becoming almost as critical for robotics companies as tuning the actual algorithms. Hardware and software really have to dance together perfectly.
Speaking of trust and perception, Apple's AI strategy continues to be, well, notably quiet compared to others. They're heavily focused on privacy first, doing processing on the device, which raises that key question. Can that approach realistically allow Siri to catch up and rival the sheer power of cloud-based models like ChatGPT?
It's a very clear trade-off they're making. They definitely gain a lot of goodwill from consumers with that strong privacy stance, but focusing on on-device processing inherently limits the raw computational horsepower they can bring to bear, especially compared to models running on massive server farms in the cloud.
Right.
There are strong rumors swirling, though. Talk of potentially acquiring Perplexity AI, maybe developing their own local nano-language models specifically designed to run efficiently on their new M4 chips. It's definitely a distinct path they're carving out in the broader AI race.
And on the complete other end of that spectrum, we have leaks strongly suggesting OpenAI's next big thing, GPT-5, is going to be a monster, fusing text, audio, image capabilities, maybe a huge context window, and potentially even having smaller on-device variants too.
Yep.
If that's true, what kind of impact could a model with that scale and capability have?
Well, if those leaks turn out to be accurate, the promise is truly game-changing. We're talking about potentially autonomous task execution things like telling your AI assistant to book your entire trip, flights, hotels, everything hands-free. And importantly, the leaks also suggest robust built-in safeguards, likely designed with regulators in mind. If that vision really materializes, yeah, the entire generative AI chessboard could flip almost overnight. It would set a completely new bar for what these foundation models are expected to do.
Now, for a development that has already ignited an ethical firestorm, even before release, xAI's Grok Imagine tool, it offers quick, like 6-second text-to-video clips, but reportedly it includes a hidden spicy mode specifically for generating explicit content. This has, understandably, sparked immediate and pretty intense backlash. What are the core ethical concerns really bubbling up here?
The backlash was swift and it was strong. It centered, quite rightly, on the terrifying potential for misuse, creating deep fake harassment material, non-consensual explicit content. And this landed especially hard given existing concerns and criticisms about content moderation on the X platform already.
Right. The context matters.
Absolutely. What this whole episode really highlights is how absolutely crucial the how we deploy aspect of AI has become. It often matters just as much, if not more, than the what we build. It's a very public, stark reminder that ethical considerations can't be an afterthought bolted on later. They have to be baked into the design and deployment process from the very beginning.
Okay, on a more positive note regarding ethical application, OpenAI added a new toggle switch to ChatGPT. It shifts the AI from being just an answer machine to acting more like a Socratic coach. They're calling it study mode.
Yeah, and the idea here is that this mode actively probes a student's understanding. It asks follow-up questions, it nudges them to reflect on the material rather than just giving them the answer. The goal is to dramatically reduce that temptation to just copy and paste homework.
Does it work?
Early pilots are apparently showing promising results, deeper knowledge retention by students, and maybe just as importantly, happier teachers who feel the tool is genuinely supporting learning, not undermining it. It's a really excellent example of using AI to enhance education, not just automate it.
Now, collision avoidance systems in connected cars got a bit of a reality check this week. There was a big survey reviewing 2 decades of research in this area, and the verdict was pretty sobering, basically. Great algorithms often die in the gap between clean simulations and messy real-world streets. Can you use a couple of examples of where these smart systems still struggle out there?
Absolutely. The survey highlighted common failure points. Things like sensor fusion, combining data from cameras, LiDAR, radar struggling on, say, rain-slicked asphalt where reflections mess things up, Or V2X communication vehicle to everything, experiencing sudden latency spikes when the network gets congested. And just the sheer unpredictability of mixed traffic with human drivers doing unexpected things often confuses reinforcement learning systems trained in more orderly simulated worlds.
Right.
With projections of maybe 50 million connected cars on the roads relatively soon, collision avoidance is rapidly shifting from being this cool R&D project to being an urgent public safety imperative. The real world is just a much tougher, messier proving ground than the lab.
And finally, from Google this week, kind of a quiet launch, but potentially significant. DeepThink. It's a re-engineered version of their Gemini 2.5 model, available now for their AI Ultra subscribers. And its focuses specifically on long-form reasoning, complex mathematical proofs, high-stakes coding, tasks requiring deeper thought. What does this tell us about where AI usability might be heading?
Yeah, DeepThink apparently intentionally slows the process down. It extends Gemini's internal thinking time to allow it to explore multiple lines of reasoning in parallel, to backtrack, to reconsider. This is exactly the kind of capability that allowed it to recently achieve those gold-level scores at the International Mathematical Olympiad, solving problems that typically require real human intuition and deep insight, not just pattern matching.
So quality over speed.
In a sense, yes. Its release, coming with impressive benchmark results and supposedly tighter safety protocols, sends a pretty bold message. Maybe the era of just expecting instantaneous, shallow replies from AI is starting to fade. If DeepThink performs as advertised, it means that truly profound AI depth, the ability to really reason through complex problems, just became a premium subscription feature. It's a fascinating evolution, suggesting depth might be the next competitive frontier.
So as we kind of wrap up and bring all these threads together, a really powerful pattern seems to emerge from just the last 7 days, doesn't it? While the raw capability of AI, the underlying models, continues that breakneck progress. The most significant breakthroughs, the ones really making an impact in the real world, they seem to be coming from integration.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've seen it across the board this week in new hardware like that innovative microwave breast scanner integrating imaging and AI. We saw it in agentic workflows like Stanford's virtual lab where different AI agents collaborate. And maybe most profoundly, in critical infrastructure, where the pipes and the power, the data centers, the cloud platforms are increasingly becoming destiny, determining who gets to build the next big thing.
And if you connect that to the bigger picture, it becomes abundantly clear just how much ethics and trust in deployment now matter. We saw that starkly with both the spicy mode controversy and that viral robot fail video, didn't we?
Right.
And it also underlines that infrastructure point, the foundational compute, the data centers, the energy that's increasingly deciding who gets to play and innovate at the frontier of this field. The markets are certainly responding. You see the cash flowing towards compute power. And regulators, they're definitely chasing this concentration of influence, trying to figure out how to manage it.
So, as we watch AI transform literally everything, from how we diagnose diseases to these massive shifts in global finance, maybe the question for you, our listener, isn't just, wow, what amazing new things can AI do? Maybe it's more. What kind of world are we actually building here, brick by algorithmic brick? And crucially, who ultimately holds the blueprint for that world? And who holds the power side?
That's a deep one to ponder.
Something to think about. Stay curious, everyone, and keep exploring this incredible, rapidly changing frontier.